Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us. Be careful, this may trigger some of you. Ask some questions in the comments. We wanted to do this because it's very hard to get someone to admit to narcissism, much less let us know how they think. So I welcome Lee Hammock. You may have seen him on TikTok. So if we can get a split screen going. I borrowed a friend's podcast studio because I was scared, you guys, I would totally mess this up. So, can we bring him up, Derek? There he is. Hey, Lee, thanks for being here.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, I just want to jump right in, and this is one of our viewer questions. Why, as a diagnosed narcissist, are you wanting to go on a channel where so many survivors, we've suffered through the pain and sometimes betrayal? Are you wanting to help? What's your intent?
So my first intent with getting started online in any kind of manner was to just, first of all, just get more men into, the mental health spectrum. Just let them know that, because the way I felt about myself and the thoughts that I had and the way I was treating people overall wasn't okay with, society standards and things like that. So I wanted to get more men into mental health, into therapy and things like that, just so that they could, just heal themselves, and not just healing themselves, just help heal their family, and just kind of stop generational curses and things of that nature. Just kind of just open their eyes up to let them know that therapy in and of itself is not a bad thing. Therapy helps. Me first, when I first started on the therapy, I just thought well, if I go to therapy, sitting in my first therapy appointment, my therapist, she's a woman, she just made it clear that that's not the issue. It's just be going to therapy actually can help people, not necessarily heal,
Right.
because I wouldn't say I've never said I'm healed in any way. I don't think I've healed. I just think I've kind of altered my behaviors to be, to make more people happier, to make my life, just easier overall.
Yeah.
And just give back to helping people and things like that. I literally just wanted to help, just men at first. I didn't realize the spectrum of narcissistic abuse and things like that even existed when I first got started on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
My first TikTok video, I got so many comments and stuff on it. It's wait, what is this? What happened? What's going on? This is dangerous. I was like, how's this dangerous talking about therapy? And then I had people reach out to me like Tina Swinton from One Mom's Battle, and she kind of talked to me a little bit and explained what was going on. So I had no idea that narcissistic abuse was even a thing until I got onto TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that I was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I didn't know there was a whole.
Who diagnosed you? Was it your therapist when you went to the
Yeah,
therapist?
my therapist.
Okay.
Mhm.
What did
Yeah, I
you
mean,
think?
I've had the same therapist since October 2017. So it's been a little bit over 4 years now.
Tell us about your family. Was it your family that encouraged you to go to therapy?
So I've always kind of felt like I was different just from my youth and my childhood and things like that. That I always kind of didn't click with with everybody else. I felt like I always had friends and stuff around just because my family dynamic was big. I had a bunch of friends that were my family, because now at 36, I feel like I don't have a lot of close friends anymore because of just kind of who I am and how I've kind of pushed people away over the years and things like that, just from my dynamic. But me and my wife had got into a huge argument one night, and we was arguing back and forth, and she just out of the blue just called me a narcissist. And I was just like, back then I didn't, I just thought narcissist was a word for conceited people. You just full of yourself and how you look and things like that. So I just okay, I'm not a narcissist. If anything, I have a reason to be confident or whatever. I call her a narcissist, and then she left.
Yeah.
And I'm a very inquisitive person, so I just kind of looked it up online, and it kind of opened my mind up to, it just wasn't just a word, it's actual, Google personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of just opened my mind up to the spectrum. And it just kind of blew my mind. It kind of sucks at first when you see the traits and the stuff that you kind of, because Google,
Yeah. Google it. Everybody
sucks to see the stuff that you, yeah. It sucks to see the stuff that you've done to people and the stuff, and how you've lived your life for so long. But it also kind of gave me a moment of clarity, because it gave me the answers to the question I've always asked myself, why did I always feel different? Why didn't my emotions click with how everybody else's clicked? Mm-hmm. So it kind of gave me the answers, just looking at the narcissist traits and stuff like that. But it also kind of, just it was a moment of just kind of my mind just kind of exploded.
Yeah, I want to come back to like your childhood and if you had any trauma in a minute, but I think some of these questions I want to get to because some people are at work and will need to go.
Okay.
So, you know, you've admitted you're a narcissist. Do you know when you're manipulating someone? I mean, do you know, like, you're like, I want this, so I'm going to do this? Is it intentional?
Yeah, so I think a lot of thoughts are intentional. Like, you know, like you have a goal in mind. Like, and that goal, most of the times when you're dealing with a narcissist, is going to be self-serving. So if that goal is in mind, you try to get that goal pretty much by any means necessary. By whatever it takes to get that goal, you're going to try to go. You're going to go get that goal, point blank, period. Like if you have to lie, if you have to manipulate people, if you have to gaslight people and make them question themselves in that moment, then as long as you get that goal, that's literally how it goes right there. Like goal achieved, like the bigger the goal and the bigger the lie, the better typically the narcissistic person feels. Well, like, which is a lot of times when you see people talk about the narcissistic smirk, where it kind of feels good, the narcissist to get over on people, that's what it kind of comes into play at. Because narcissists do, they just do. They know what, like everybody knows the difference between right and wrong. Like point blank period, whatever their diagnosis is or non-diagnosis is.
So you know the difference between right and wrong then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know the difference between right and wrong.
You say you do wrong and your wife gets upset or someone else gets upset at what you're doing. How does that affect you, or does it affect you at all? Like if she's crying or you said something ugly to me and I'm crying, or one of your kids is crying, how does that affect you?
So I just feel like over the years, I've kind of, even with therapy, I've come along the lines of realizing that other people's emotions don't necessarily affect me as much as long if it's not tied to me. So I would typically blame people, the way people feel, on how they reacted to what I said and what I've done, the situation that I've done. I was like, well, you didn't have to take it that way. I know I said this, but you didn't have to take it that way. The way you received it resulted in how you're feeling right now. And, you know, my therapist kind of went over that too. She's like, she told me to describe to her. And I told her, I was like, well, I feel bad in the moment, but then I would immediately kind of shift it to why I said what I said or did what I did. And typically it will result in blaming the other person for their actions or how they received the information. Like, well, I didn't say it with mean intent. You just took it that way, even though it was some mean stuff that was said.
Right.
Or he said it like that.
So basically not taking responsibility. Like you're like, it's not my fault. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
It's easier to not take responsibility and push it on somebody else, and then to kind of internalize it and take responsibility, because that's where a lot of like the shame and the anger comes into play when you're dealing with narcissistic people comes in. Because when they have to take responsibility for their actions, they probably just rather lash out or go silent on you, as opposed to, you know, just kind of voicing their opinion and speaking to you, you know, because it's embarrassing sometimes. Like sometimes I would rage out, and it not necessarily just at my wife or whatever, it'd be just at work or something like that. I would rage out on a coworker, and I was just like, is that necessary? No, but, you know, I actually felt good. It kind of deserved it in that moment. Because, like, you know, they shouldn't have spoke to me at this exact moment of time, or they shouldn't have done this. It's always results in blaming somebody else, you know. And that's the kind of thing that therapy has kind of helped me, you know, just get under wraps and control nowadays, as opposed to how I used to be.
Okay. So here, this came from a viewer too. How can your sensitivity level be exaggerated toward yourself, yet your sympathy and empathy is diminished toward other people? So you're like, you know, this is all about me and you don't care about others. This was a question from, again, a female viewer who wanted to know, who's been married to a narcissist.
So the way I describe it is that, like, you know, most narcissistic people, we have like a very, you know, limited emotional capacity. Like I feel the entire spectrum of emotions. I just do. Happy, sad, all that type of stuff. But I just don't have a full, you know, I would describe it as a cup. I don't have the cup when I wake up in the morning. If I wake up late, that cup is already lower. And I go to work lower, dealing with people, lower. And by the time I come home, I have nothing left to give. So the little bit I have left to give, I probably, you know, you probably give it to the kids or the dog and not your significant other. So which makes them feel left out and things like that. So you don't necessarily feel bad. You just like, look, I gave all I had to give. Like there's nothing left for me to give to you. So I don't know what to do, you know?
And you're still married, right?
Mine just works weird.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm still
your
married.
mind works differently, and thank you for being transparent about that. So you're still married. Is she going to therapy with you, or by herself, or not at all, or?
So she's had a few therapy sessions over the years, just for different issues, whatever in her past. I'm pretty sure. I think we had a very, very transparent talk before we actually, gathered about how she had the therapist about dealing with narcissism and stuff like that. And we actually had a marriage. We actually been, when she left the last April. We actually, before we got together, we actually did like 3 virtual marriage counseling sessions. So we actually did marriage counseling together, which is why, I don't know if you see my videos, I always talk about marriage counseling with a narcissist. If you're gonna go to marriage counseling with a narcissistic person, get a counselor that specializes in narcissism. Because I remember my marriage counselor asking us as a group, she's like, are either one of you in therapy? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually in therapy. I've actually been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And she was just like, oh, okay. And she started talking to my wife, like it didn't mean anything. I was like, cool. I was just,
Gotcha.
at that moment, I kind of knew I could say what I wanted to say. I was just like, all right, she has no idea what she's up against. So now I kind of know what to say and what to do, because she doesn't know that I told her I'm a narcissist, and she didn't waver at all. She's just like, huh, okay. And then she started talking to my wife. She's like, what about you? Have you been in therapy before? She was like, and my wife, I know I could kind of see the look of my wife's face. She's like, well, you didn't waver when he said that. So it's just like she didn't, the therapist kind of didn't know. So I always recommend, if you're going to go to marriage counseling with somebody that you think is a narcissist, you need to ask them, because before you go to marriage counseling, they do like the little separate appointments or whatever to see what your goals are. Make sure you ask them, do they have experience with dealing with somebody that you think might be a narcissist or a sociopath or whatever? Because if they don't have experience, you're going to lose. You're going to leave that marriage counseling experience.
Totally. Thank you. How could some of our viewers, because they've been through a lot, we all have, including myself, how do you get a narcissist into therapy? Because mostly won't go.
I feel like, for me, rock bottom was the only way for me to go to therapy. First of all, I had to, I've had a life full of, trying to better myself, like through personal development, listening to, Tom Robbins and Les Brown and things like anyway. But I had to absolutely hit rock bottom. I was like, before my wife called me a narcissist, she walked in on me like screaming at my like 4 or 5 month old son, because he was just crying. I couldn't get him to stop crying, so I was just like screaming at him. And she walked in on it. She got out for work early and walked in on me screaming at him, like just stop crying. Like, this is why I can't do what I want to do with my life or whatever. This is why I'm in the position I'm in right now. And when she left and took my son, I was just like, and I realized my older son, I was like, he loves his stepmom. And it was just like, when she left me, there was nobody left to blame for the position I was in life except for me. So I had to hit rock bottom. She was no longer there to catch me. Like, when I tell people, they will always ask how to get their narcissistic person into therapy. They have to hit rock bottom, and they cannot hit rock bottom if you're going to be there to lend them their rope or to catch them right before they hit the bottom. You have to let them hit the bottom sometimes, and the bottom sometimes doesn't involve. It involves you kind of turning your back and walking away from them, and you just kind of closing your ears. They're going to smack the ground when they hit rock bottom. Sometimes you have to walk away from that, and and typically, like, I know my situation is different, but it can't come from you, like the wife or the significant other, the husband. It cannot come from you, because you are the big, like, if you're the closest person to a narcissist, you are the biggest source of criticism too. So if you tell your significant other that they are a narcissist in today's society, they are automatically going to view it as an attack on them. They're not going to take any kind of positivity from it. They're going to be like, I'm a narcissist. Well, you're a narcissist. Let me tell you why. Blah, 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 blah. They're going to list off the reasons why you are narcissistic, as opposed to them being a narcissist. Yeah. So I just feel like it can't come from you. Somehow it has to get in front of them some way, other way, shape, or form, through rock bottom, and them looking up why they are in the position of life they are in right now. Yeah, what your wife did was a boundary,
right? Your wife said no more. I'm out. She drew a line in the sand.
Yeah. And she left. The last time she left me, like, I was taking my oldest son. I have a 13-year-old son. I was taking him home to his mom in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I was like 15 minutes from the house, and I got a text message like, I won't be here when you get back. I was like, what? And, you know, and she told me, and I was like, of course I was furious because you know, she left me in 2020, and I told you I've been in therapy since 2017, so I've been in therapy the entire time, and she still left me because I had stopped going to therapy for like 4 or 5 months. So when I don't go to therapy, it regresses, it goes downhill. I just know it does. So I always ask people when they're talking to me, there's like, well, is there hope for my narcissistic person? I was like, well, ask yourself this question. Are they willing to go to therapy for the rest of their life? Because I'm going to be in therapy for at least once a month for the rest of my existence.
Yeah, you should be.
Are they willing to do that? Yeah. I am, because I have to. Even my wife came in here right now. She's like, hey, I'm leaving you. I would still go to my therapy appointment in a couple of weeks. Because it's not about her as much as it's about me now. Because I know, like, I have to work on me before I work on the outside. I can't work on my wife or my family, my kids, anything like that without working on me first, the units. So I can't stop working on the individual before I work on the unit, actually. You know?
Yeah, so you mentioned...
And I have to be, it's like, if you are dealing with a narcissist...
You mentioned earlier that you, it's more about altering your behaviors. Is that kind of what you feel like you're doing? It's not changing your heart or soul, because that's really difficult to do, but altering your behaviors?
Yeah. I feel like I'm just altering my behaviors and the way I react to things. Like, I feel like the way I alter my behaviors is like I slow down. I'm not, so, you know, I listen. When I'm listening to people, I listen to respond as opposed to trying to listen to react. Like, because when I'm listening to react, like most narcissistic people do, they're listening and waiting for a reason to jump on you, to jump down your throat, to attack you personally or whatever. They're just listening, like waiting, like, oh, you said that, but you said this, I'm gonna attack you because of that. They are listening to react to what you are saying to you, as opposed to listening to respond and actually hearing what you're saying.
Oh, that's the
main thing. I feel like that's the main thing. Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing I worked on since being in therapy. Is just like listening to respond to people. I try to let people finish their thoughts and their sentences, because if I cut them off early, I don't get the full sentence, and I might misinterpret what they're saying, which could result in me getting mad, which could result in some rage or some break. It's just, you know, it's just unnecessary, like, stuff. Like, I feel like taking a step back and actually slowing down my life in my listening process has actually helped me, you know, just process and like when you notice when you're talking to a narcissistic person, when you're trying to convey your feelings to them, when you say something to them, you're just like, hey, I want to talk to you about my feelings. And they'll jump down your throat immediately. Yeah. When you mention the word feeling, they're on you right then and there, because they know your feelings are going to be based on how they've been treating you. So they're going to attack you as to why they've been treating you that way, as opposed to trying to listen to you and actually understand the point that you're trying to get to.
Okay.
So I feel like that's the biggest thing I've worked on in therapy, is just the listening aspect of things.
Okay, and I have two more questions for you, if that's okay. 2 more questions for you. Can narcissists, in your opinion, really love? Can you really love someone, or do you think it's a different kind of love?
I feel like everybody, like I say, I get this question. This is probably the most asked question I get on my TikTok and stuff like that. Is can they really love you? I always answer it with a question, because, like, do I think I can love my wife and kids? Yeah, I feel like I love them in the way that I know that it's possible to love. You know what I mean?
As much as you can.
I feel like it's I feel like if the definition of love that you have, where it's unconditional, maybe not, because I always have these crazy scenarios in my head where I imagine cutting my wife off or cutting my kids off for some crazy reason. Those thoughts go through my head every day. Like, when my daughter grows up and she says this to me, I'm going to leave her alone. I'm just like, what kind of thought is that? You know, I'm having conversations with myself. I'm like, what kind of thought process is this? You know? So I just feel like if a narcissist loves you, it's going to be very, very, you know, it's going to be conditional. Like, and if you violate one of those conditions, which could be something crazy, out of your control, like you might have talked to somebody that they knew, you might believe in something that they didn't know you believed in, you might snore when you sleep. If you violate one of those conditions, then that love that they did have for you in the beginning, was the love bombing phase, they immediately start to kind of pull it back away from you. They immediately kind of start to retract it away from you and things like that. So I feel like narcissistic love is very, very conditional love. It's just based on, like, conditions. Like, as long as you meet these conditions, I will love you in this way. But as soon as you violate one of these conditions, which you probably don't know exist, then it's taken away from you immediately.
Okay.
And you probably never get it back in the same way ever again.
Okay. Do you ever look back on any past relationships with regret? Do you ever, somebody maybe you dated before your wife, or do you ever miss that person, or is it just about moving on and getting what you need from the next person?
So I feel like I can answer this question in two ways. Pre-diagnosis, I used to like miss people based on how it ended, or whatever the relationship dynamic was. Like I missed this person because we had a kid together and I thought we were going to grow old together. So we're like that person violated one of my conditions, so it's kind of like whatever with them or whatever. But nowadays, when I look back at it now, I regret. I just feel like I regret differently than what I used to regret, because nowadays I have my thought process is a little different because of therapy. I feel like I regret saying stuff to people and doing stuff to people, but like 5 years ago, I always kind of justified that through whatever they did to me, whatever they said to me. I was like, well, she didn't want to go out with me this night, so I went out with somebody else. So that's her fault.
You justified it.
As opposed to me just staying home.
Yeah.
It's always jumped to immediate justification of my actions through their actions. Like whatever they did to me resulted in how I treated them or what I did to them.
I see. Okay, so do you think that narcissists can change? And then I have one more question about the best piece of advice you can give our subscribers.
So can narcissists change? Well, like me in myself, I don't even think, like, I have to say it like this. I don't even think I have changed, because I don't want to give people false hope that people like somehow, some way that they can get their husband or wife into therapy and they become what I've become online or whatever you see online, because I don't necessarily think I have changed to the point where I'm like, I tell people all the time, like, there's not no magic pill that I took that made me stop being a narcissist. I'm still 100% a narcissist. I just exude the characteristics in different ways. The traits just come out in different ways because of the work I put in onto myself. Like, it's not just therapy, it's just self-development stuff that I've been listening to, like Tony Robbins and all this other good stuff I've been listening to over like a 10-year span.
Okay.
But change, like, you're still going to have that narcissist like bubbling beneath the surface, kind of waiting to just like pop out.
Yeah.
Because like
I
I feel like I control my impulses better nowadays than I ever have. Like, the impulses are still there. I want to, like, when my wife says something to me, or somebody at work says something to me or something like that, or somebody sends me a mean email, I immediately want to respond to it just with some vitriol. It's just like,
I gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha.
Stop.
So
Pause.
if there was one thing you want to leave people with that are watching now, what would it be? I know, like, one of your videos I saw was about going no contact. That's the biggest way to hurt a narcissist. What do you want to leave them with?
I feel like the main thing I want to leave people with is, like, self-love is the best love. Like, you cannot outlove the trauma that made somebody a narcissist or a possible narcissist or whatever. You can't outlove the trauma that made them who they are. And because if you try to outlove that trauma, you kind of justify it in your mind how they are treating you. Like, you have to, like, realize that you have to pour more love into yourself, and that'll help you regardless of whether you choose to leave or stay, which is, like I said, leaving is probably the best option in most people's cases, because I know some people can't leave because of finances and things of that nature, and some people don't want to leave, point blank period. But, like, I feel like if you want to leave, loving yourself helps you leave more love into yourself than you pour into this relationship dynamic that you're not getting, reciprocal love from. You're not getting equal love out of it. Like, you're pouring so much in, but you're not getting anything out of it. So I just feel like self-love is the best love. You have to, like, love internally more. Yeah. Because that's how you take your power back.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because we can't wait on the narcissist in our lives to give it to us. So, Lee, thanks so much. We've gone like 25 minutes, and you've answered a lot of questions, so we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And tell everybody where they can find you if they want to hear more.
I mean, so, my biggest platform is TikTok. I post on TikTok every day, and Instagram at Mental Illness. I'm on YouTube as well at Mental Illness as well. I mean, I try to post every day I have an email address. I'm like, people blow my email up. It's mentalhealness85@gmail.com if you have any kind of questions, anything like that. But I do respond better on Instagram messages than I do, on email, because they kind of pop up on my phone and I can just answer them really, really quickly. But yeah, that's TikTok and Instagram are pretty much my biggest platforms right now, where I just kind of respond to people better, because, YouTube doesn't have a messaging system where you can just message people, just like the comments and things like that.
Well, I hope you stay in therapy, and best of luck to you and the family, and keep trying, because you guys and girls that are narcissists can really hurt us. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I will always be in therapy. Trust me.
Okay.
I'm not going, regardless of what happens with my life, I will always be in therapy, at least once a month for the rest of my life.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. That's Lee Hammock, everyone.